Remember how many dildos were originally in Cyberpunk 2077? You couldn't loot a corner in Night City without picking one up, to the point where CD Projekt Red actually ended up patching a number of them out. The dildos weren't necessarily a problem on their own, but their abundance was a good example of how Cyberpunk's grand story could occasionally clash with the cheap shock humor found around it. With the long-awaited expansion, CDPR aims to right that dildo misalignment, and after some soul-searching, has seemingly found what kind of Cyberpunk story it wants to tell, and nails it with Phantom Liberty.
Huh. Oh, come on. Answer.
I'll have a double cheeseburger while you're at it.
Phantom Liberty begins with the president of the NUSA crash landing in a self-governed district of Night City called Dogtown, and you're hired by her Secret Service detail to rescue her. From there, you will meet the two most important new characters in the expansion. Song So-mi, an NUSA hacker excellently played by Christine Minji Chang,
Guilt is charged.
and Solomon Reed, a sleeper agent who was brought back into commission portrayed by the iconic Idris Elba.
Apologies for the precautions.
Elba is again channeling his city-wise American accent from The Wire, only this time on the other side of the law.
I don't know how much she's paying, but you better ask yourself, is it worth it?
He's definitely not phoning this role in either, delivering a thoroughly captivating performance as a secret agent who made me so desperately want to trust him, even though he is Night City's greatest spy, and therefore probably never telling the full truth.
I'm here, I'll help, but I'm doing it for Somi and my country.
Phantom Liberty relies heavily on make-or-break decisions that can't be taken back, and Reed is part of the reason why those choices become so difficult. Keanu Reeves also makes a return as Johnny Silverhand. Maybe it's the years since I last played, but I feel Reeves is actually better this time around, performance-wise.
Tried to surface, but this suffocating, sucking sound pulled me back in.
Honestly, I think it's that he has better material to work with in Phantom Liberty, which requires him to rattle off fewer diatribes about screwing over the system. Instead, the expanded story lets Reeves explore Silverhand's mournful side, diving into his existence as a failed revolutionary imprisoned in somebody else's body.
These are trained sociopaths. Pretend to be your friends while they fucking ain't.
But more than that, between Elba, Reeves, and Chang, Phantom Liberty does a great job highlighting just how advanced its characters' animations are. At the intersection of performance and technology, CDPR has found something in Cyberpunk 2077 that can genuinely move you.
Chin up. We're in this together.
Just wait until you meet Reed's spy associate, Alex.
Go back inside, tell him I'm in.
Overall, Phantom Liberty has a much firmer grasp on what kind of stories can be told in Night City. It's a metropolis full of political wheelings and dealings, all manner of crime, and more than its fair share of idiots. And that's unique in the sci-fi hacker genre, compared to the dour and operatic worlds of Blade Runner and Ghost in the Shell. Cyberpunk 2077 is grunge and metal, and Phantom Liberty harnesses this wild energy into mature storytelling, something the outstanding animated Netflix show Cyberpunk Edgerunners also managed to capture. Elevated by Elba's and Chang's respective performances, Phantom Liberty hits all the things I love in a cyberpunk story. It hones in on the hopelessness of hypercapitalism and the dehumanizing effects of technology on our souls,
Where the rich bought and sold so many unfulfilled dreams.
all while using the spy motif to introduce some new themes to the world. How can we trust anyone when every element of the future has been so thoroughly taken over by automated forces of corporations and government? It has more to say than I expected going in, and more than I could have ever hoped for after my initial playthrough of Cyberpunk 2077.
Drone on your left.
Similarly, CDPR gets a ton of mileage out of its spy premise. There are exciting moments where you're channeling your best Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible, complete with a new face to trick your targets, as well as an entire section that was very clearly inspired by Skyfall. I was curious to learn how an espionage plot could fit into Cyberpunk 2077's story about varying levels of criminality, from the dingiest streets to the tallest executive corporate suite.
I have a subdermal tracker. It needs to go ASAP.
But Phantom Liberty reminds us that the government too is part of our hyper-capitalist meat grinder, and not much separates a government agent from a streetwise fixer. It's serious business, but whenever the storyline begins to feel too heavy, you can take on side jobs for Mr. Hands, a fixer whose clientele ranges from kidnapped arms dealers to a doting resident who just wants to rescue her dumb as bricks fiancé and his even dumber friend.
Hi.
But make no mistake, CDPR has played a wicked trick by infusing these side missions with the same kind of complex moral dilemmas you're forced to resolve during the main campaign.
Hey, careful with that.
Phantom Liberty also adds an entirely new district to the already packed Night City. Sure, the idea of an independent Dogtown is a bit confusing if you're not familiar with the lore, but this lawless Thunderdome proves to be a great setting for Phantom Liberty's paranoid spy thriller. The new area draws visual inspiration from both Las Vegas and Santa Monica. It's part beach town, part luxury resort destination, with extravagant hotels, glamorous nightclubs, and a football stadium that's been converted into a city center. The line that the location is also a character has never been truer than it is here. There's so much fun in wandering around Dogtown and discovering some hidden storyline, or a bit of environmental storytelling. It's almost an anti-Tears of the Kingdom, where the joy isn't in emergent bits of gameplay, but in archaeologically uncovering secrets hidden throughout the area. There was always something magical about exploring Night City's skyline, and doing it again, knowing that no other game since has replicated this feat, is just as impressive. This is one game I never want to fast travel through. Without spoilers, there's a specific point in the expansion story where it will diverge based on your decisions, leading you down one of two very distinct paths, each with their own endings.
Activating a sleeper agent is no simple matter.
I played both for this review and found that one certainly feels more canon than the other. There's also an entirely new ending that's been added to the base game that feels like it might be the de facto true ending, and takes Phantom Liberty's themes of self-sacrifice and near-future alienation and uses them to wrap up V and Silverhand's story.
We stick to the plan. After that, guess we'll see.
I may start an entire new save to experience this story fully from beginning to end. With all of the impressive changes in Cyberpunk 2077's free 2.0 update that arrived alongside the DLC's launch, starting fresh is actually something I'm looking forward to.
Shit. Thing needs a little go-go juice to wake up.
On that note, while Phantom Liberty isn't required to install the 2.0 update, it's hard to say that the revamped gameplay didn't positively influence my experience as I played through 20 hours of Phantom Liberty. In particular, the newly reworked skill tree that makes it easier to build your character towards specific playstyles was a revelation. Whether you're pursuing a hacker build, augmented build, or something else, this alone makes Cyberpunk 2077 a much better experience than it was in 2020. To be clear, these are improvements that all Cyberpunk 2077 owners can experience, even without buying Phantom Liberty. The expansion doesn't include much in the way of brand new abilities, but does feature some exclusive close and weapons. The weapons in particular are very much themed after the spy stories Phantom Liberty has taken inspiration from, giving us access to extremely fun, very powerful stealth tools that will let you infiltrate the deadliest den of thieves without getting caught. If you're planning on coming back to Night City for another run, I cannot recommend enough that you take a detour to Dogtown while you're here.
Not one move!
I said in my review of Cyberpunk Edgerunners that CDPR now has a blueprint for where to go with Cyberpunk 2077, and Phantom Liberty shows that the studio already had exactly that in mind. Between a more sophisticated level of storytelling with excellent performances, smarter insights on the cyberpunk genre and its dystopian themes, and landing on top of a much improved gameplay experience thanks to its fresh 2.0 update, Phantom Liberty marks a new chapter for Cyberpunk 2077, and is finally close to what I'd hoped it would be when I first sat down to play 3 years ago. For more, check out our reviews of Cyberpunk Edgerunners and Starfield, and for everything else, stick with IGN.